At this stage, I am of the opinion that to make or take a stand on the bail application without first hearing and determining the issue that is glaring in the face, which is the absence of the defendant from the court since 25th of April 2017 until he was produced on the 29th of June. My Lord, which was exactly what the Supreme Court did. They said that he did not jump bail. These criminals came to my house to kill me.
Nnamdi Kanu has not done anything that other people from other zones have not done. We know about Sunday Igboho, of the Yoruba nation agitator. We know of the Boko Haram people that say they want a different country where Western education is an abomination. These people have been released. Not just that they have been released. In the case of Boko Haram, they've been re-assimilated to the society, given plum jobs, even in our military. They've been given money and been resuscitated, reconciled, and rehabilitated. Why is Nnamdi Kanu's case different? There is an ethnic and some unnecessary bias that is keeping that man in jail. The government should be wise enough to release this man. You can use the Julian Assange option if you don't want to say you are losing face. You can release him conditionally. You can release him unconditionally. As a lawyer, I've watched the legal issues very clearly. And I saw that even in the courts, from the High Court to the Supreme Court, there are discordant tones amongst them. Even in the issue of bail, some of the tier of the courts have granted him bail. Even in the issue of the charges, some tier of the court had quashed all the charges. So you can see that the government has a lot of places it can stand to release the young man and bring peace to the southeast. He is now more like a political prisoner. I tell you something, the longer Nnamdi Kanu is in prison, the taller he becomes.
And this is getting interesting. Nigerian lawyers, SANS, are now demanding mounting pressure on Tinubu to release Mazi Nnamdi Kanu with immediate effect. With all alacrity, this is no longer mensing words, and allow Biafrans to go instead of creating states that are not viable with the current economic realities and with the current political uncertainty engulfing the Nigerian state. They are now speaking up that the more Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is being detained or incarcerated unjustly, illegally, the more he grows tall, the more Nigeria grows shorter in the Community of Nations, just as what is happening in the eve of this stunning warning from Washington, D.C. Mr. Trump government and administration have sent a stern warning to several countries around the world that are subjugating, persecuting their countrymen illegally, and have expressed zero tolerance to such level of dehumanizing tendencies, abuse of power, and arbitrary detention by these politicians and so-called leaders across the world. In the eve of this reality, the Nigerian SANS, judges, lawyers are now saying, Tinubu, release this man. If you have been able to release, discharge and acquitted the likes of Sunday Igboho, Boko Harams that have been ravaging communities, killing Nigerian citizens, if they have been pardoned, reintegrated into the society, now what becomes the fate of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, whose only offense was just asking for the independent state of Biafra, expressing his right to self-determination and preservation of his people, haven't considered Nigeria as a threat to their continued existence and happiness. That is quite interesting. It is no longer begging Tinubu to release him. It is no longer a kind of talking about political settlement and the rest of them. This issue is very clear now. Release him. The more you hold him, the more pain of course, Nigeria is being subjected. The more international communities see Nigeria as a lawless country that without regards to the rule of law and compliance to the fundamental rights of citizens, which they signed, which they are signatory to the Geneva Convention and the United Nations Charter on the Rights of People and their privileges. It is quite interesting now. Everybody could see that unfolding. It is no longer news. The lives of Dr. Mike Ozakome, Kenneth Okonkwo, Barrister Kenneth Okonkwo, and the rest of them are speaking up. Release Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. He has done no wrong that no other person in Nigeria have not done. In fact, the first time the Nigerian who arrested or kidnapped Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, the same Nigerian court of law discharged and acquitted him, just as he explained. He reiterated in his statement that the same court, appellate court of law, that adjudged Mazi Nnamdi Kanu saw him, considers him innocent, and discharged and acquitted. Now, under what circumstances, if not being biased and defiant to the rules and the verdicts of the court, under what circumstances or premise does the continued detention, incarceration of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is based on? Let the court let us know. Where are they basing their premise of the argument, the continued detention of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, even when the court have said he is discharged and acquitted? This is a very welcome development in the sense that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has not just been overwhelmingly vindicated, but it is very clear now that Nigerian government is being mischievous or more or less working out of the provisions of her own constitution, which empowers, establishes the institution of the state. The same appellate court of law, the same legal system have exonerated Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, setting him free from all kind charges alleged against him, and eventually setting him free. So what, again, with the government, the argument, that is quite interesting, and this is gaining more international, of course, publicity, and the world is watching keenly and observing what is happening. Definitely, that will not continue endlessly, because America and other international community have seen that and have the perceived justice and against Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, and virtually will definitely rise to say no to this. Before it is too late for Tinubu administration and the Nigerian government, just as Mike Ozakeme, Kenneth Okonkwo has submitted, you better release Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, because the more you detain him, the more longer he stays, the more he grows tall, and the Nigerian government and society begin to diminish in the eyes of international communities. How could you be rated if you're considered to be grossly violating the principles of justice, equity, and fair hearing, according to the provisions of the Nigerian Constitution, that a Nigerian citizen or an accused should be given the right to self-hearing and a trial within reasonable period of time. So the unnecessary incarceration of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has vindicated his position that Nigeria, of course, is a state that is lawless, by describing them as zoo, where anybody does what he feels could protect his interests. It is quite very disturbing. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu having vindicated his reasons for demanding for self-determination or self-expression through self-determination and the restoration of the Biafran state, having vindicated because he wouldn't want to be a part of a society that has little or no regard for the principles of justice, equity, and fairness. That is just the reality, and nobody could, of course, argue otherwise, because it is now the reality staring at us. When the likes of Sunday was exonerated, his sins or whatever was forgiven, according to, if you say that self-agitation is a sin, a crime, why is Sunday Igboho being pardoned? Why is Sunday Igboho allowed to go free, even protected by his kinsmen, by the same Yoruba people holding Mazi Nnamdi Kanu today? Somebody might say it's not Yoruba, it's not Tinubu holding him. Who is holding him? Who is presiding over the affairs of Nigeria today? Of course, Buhari is dead, as is been announced, officially pronounced. And what else could be keeping Mazi Nnamdi Kanu there, if not for ethnic biasness, bigotry, and subjugation of the people? The reason why the people have said, we are not being treated as part of the society or the Nigerian project. We need to move on with our lives. And definitely, there is no other way better, of course, to express this than demanding further independence or calling for referendum that will give them opportunity to decide whether to continue within the Nigerian state or otherwise part their ways, which, whatever happens, is within the ambit of the law and a protected international right under the law, which Nigeria happens to be a signatory. So with this call, with this urgent and emergency call for the release of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu by the lawyers, they understood that now, of course, there is fire on the mountain, that US is not joking about this current reality. US is no longer mincing words. They are coming heavily with their sledgehammers against the corrupt judges, against the corrupt lawyers who have been used or induced to subvert the cause of justice. Definitely, as Trump have declared war against injustice, against arbitrary detention, subjugation, or persecution of persons, and violation of their fundamental right. Definitely, that will chart a way forward. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is coming out as most celebrated prisoner of conscience. The Nigerian government is afraid of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu release. Why should they be afraid? You are creating states that are not viable, that are moribund. People are suffering, as is being reported in national dailies, that over 34 million Nigerians risk extinction, risk death as a result of starvation, hunger, famine in the land. Of what importance is that to humanity? That people are suffering in hunger. There is no security, there is no sense of accomplishment, there is no accountability on the part of the government. They are telling a story. Now, what is the need of running a system that is not viable, that does not place the priority, the safety of the people first? Look at how Nigerians are. Look at families that could not fend for themselves. How long will that be allowed to continue? These are reasons why we must reconsider the continued existence of Nigeria. Let every region control their resources, manage their own peculiar issues, as that could be peculiar to them. Let them sort themselves out. And if they fail to do, of course, whatever happens to them is their choice. And they should, of course, take that fate. So you cannot continue to live in fear. Nigeria is being held not by values or by vision or principle. Nigeria is being held together by fear, the fear of unknown, the fear of uncertainty. And that fear keeps leading Nigeria into a very unpleasant state and development. It is quite unfortunate, and indeed, there is no other time to address this. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has maintained his position, however odious and exacerbating, demanding that the right thing must be done. It doesn't matter whose all is God, but he is acting, defending the cause of justice, and that must certainly prevail. Let's get to have your own take regarding this development. Of course, the U.S. isn't missing words as the atrocity going on within the judicial system has been exposed to the international communities. And of course, they are keenly observing and taking note of whatever is happening. And that could not be hidden any longer before the international communities. And definitely, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu will not rest under DSS solitary confinement. There is time for everything. The time to set him free. The time to allow referendum to be conducted. The time for the Biafrans to leave, of course, Nigerian state, or given the opportunity to conduct referendum that will determine truly if they want to leave or not.
I thank God for Trump. He's a God sent. And I've been praying that he should turn his face to this part of the world because we need his help here. Everything is rotten. The political system, the judiciary, the military, everything. If he has done that to a Brazilian, thank God. Let him just remember us here and help us tell these people here that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is not supposed to still be in detention. Having been discharged and acquitted by a Supreme Court, sat over by 6 well knowledgeable, respected justices. And so we have somebody there, Amatosha. Well, Amatosha for me can only play out the script of his master, the president. He cannot do much. So may God help us and turn the face of Trump to this part of the world.
Of course, that is a prayer answered, because Section 36 of the Nigerian Constitution says that the citizens has the right to fair hearing and a trial within a reasonable time frame. But that section of the Constitution has been violated as far as Mazi Nnamdi Kanu case is concerned. And the United Nations stipulates that no person should be incarcerated beyond 15 days. But here is Mazi Nnamdi Kanu in that picture of subjugation, oppression, and no regard to the Nigerian Constitution and the rule of law. Don't you think that that is the next destination for United States of America and Trump administration to focus on?
Pause.
Okay. Okay.
Right. So you see, we are waiting for Trump. You should hurry up and come over here. You should hurry up. Apart from Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, there are other freedom fighters that are incarcerated. You understand? And the place we are living in is such a lawless place. Nigeria is a very lawless place. Nobody respects the law. They just make noise about law. But they who make the law break the law themselves. They know what the Constitution says, but they disobey what the Constitution says. You know, someone said that the laws are made for the common man, that top class people buy law with their money. So law is effective on nobody's. And that is what we have here in Nigeria. Top class people always wriggle out of the hand of law. I remember that man, I've forgotten his name, who stole about, was it 700 billion or was it 75 billion pension fund? And a law court in Nigeria guaranteed him bail with 700,000.
Mena.
Oh my goodness. We are living in a zoo. We are living in an animal kingdom. Someone stole pensions money, pensioners, money that people have labored with their life and kept so that when they retire, they can fall back on it.
In tens of billions.
Now, somebody stole it, and he come to a court of law that should punish him for what he did. And the court of law say, okay, just bring 700,000. And they collected 700,000 and they let the man go. And that has been the end of it. So it is a very, very lawless place. You understand? And I pray that whatever Trump can help us do in that regard, he should hasten on.
Some person, according to Ezekwesili, Nigeria do not need amendments of constitution, but a new constitution in its entirety. Do you agree with that?
I agree with that throughout.
Now, how possible would that be?
Because what are you going to amend? Any government that will amend it to its own advantage. But that's not what we want. We need a whole new political arrangement if we are going to continue to live together as one, in one country. We need a whole new arrangement and a new constitution that will back it up. 100% new constitution that will back up the 100% new political arrangement. So she's correct, having said that. Yeah.
Someone argued that if Mazi Nnamdi Kanu were to be a Yoruba man or a Fulani man, he wouldn't have been incarcerated for so long. Do you agree with such?
Oh well. The moment you mention the name Biafra, you understand? Some people die 80%. So they don't want to hear it. And Biafra can only be mentioned by people from the east. You understand? So they don't feel safe with anybody mentioning Biafra or anybody doing something that will make the Igbo man stay away from this arrangement. The Nigerian system is helping Britain a lot to steal our money. And all these sufferings you see that we are passing through, all these political, problems are orchestrated by Britain. They have a divide and rule philosophy. All their colonies are suffering the same thing. They create internal problems for you so that they can take what they want and make their way. Britain is living on their colonies. And it's quite unfortunate we happen to be one of their colonies. And I keep asking God, why didn't Portuguese who first came here stay and colonize us? We would have been better off than Britain. Having said that, we need to fight. We need to fight. But for the people to fight, there has to be a leader. And who will help? Who is the leader in Nigeria? In the Nigerian context, not the Biafran context now. The Nigerian context, who will come out to help us fight? To deliver us from the hand of this political system. Because all the evil come from this political system. You understand? So, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu being detained is lawlessness taken too far. But it boils down on that fear that they have for Igbos. And what they are gaining from this evil political system, both Britain and their Nigerian partners. So that has always been the problem, and that is where I always hit the political system. We have got to destroy it. We need a new chapter entirely. We need a new system that will help us get out of this evil system. May God help us to provide us a way out of it.